So let's return to my original complaint, which is that a lot of food, including pizza, now tastes the same. It's all gotten worse, and it's something that every living person has noticed. It doesn't matter where I get my pizza, whether it's the supermarket, Papa John's, anywhere else. This is, it's an issue probably can't be blamed on marijuana use. Every single employee who makes a pizza everywhere in the country can't be high at the same time. So what's actually going on here? If the problem isn't capitalism per se, then what is the problem? Well, as it turns out, a single cheese company called Lepro Foods controls 85% of the pizza cheese market. To be clear, that's not the cheese pizza market. It's the market for cheese that goes on the pizza. Leprino's based in...
In today's segment, we're looking at why so much restaurant food, especially pizza, tastes identical. It turns out a single cheese supplier and a handful of frozen food distributors and a nationwide shift towards pre-packaged ingredients are shaping what we eat more than people realize. This clip breaks down how we got there, why major brands all use the same base products, and what it means for quality. After the clip, I'll come back with a quick, level-headed takeaway.
And they supply pretty much every pizza place, from Pizza Hut to Domino's to Papa John's. In other words, Lepro is like the Willy Wonka of cheese. You never see in the guy's face, but his product is everywhere. You can't escape it. Whether you're ordering delivery from a major chain or buying a frozen pizza at the supermarket, the base core ingredient of your pizza, one way or another, is going to come from exactly the same place. So how did Lepro achieve this dominance? Are they somehow the only people in the entire country who know how to make cheese? Well, if you look into it, you'll find that actually Lepro's dominance is the result of patents. Lots and lots of patents. You might not think that cheese is the kind of thing that you could patent, but you'd be wrong. Specifically, Lepro Foods holds more than 50 patents related to manufacturing cheese. And one of these patents, for example, describes the step of converting at least a portion of protein containing starting milk into discrete curd particles and forming the curd particles into a cheese precursor. Some of the most famous patents allow for the creation of cheese in a continuous high-speed stream, which greatly increases volume production while retaining consistency.
This is where you start to see why everything tastes the same. It's not the recipes, it's not the patent production methods that let one company crank out identical cheese for nearly every major chain. Once the supply chain gets standardized like this, the flavor of the final product can only go in one direction, towards uniformity.
They also patented a method for quick freezing cheese as soon as it was produced, which prevents cheese from aging prematurely. And very quickly, pizza places realized that the frozen cheese was more viable for a longer period of time than anything they could buy fresh, even though it doesn't taste as good. It doesn't taste fresh because it's not, but it's more viable and it's more profitable. And it was also more consistent from location to location, which is particularly important for a national brand. So because Lepro made logistics easy, everybody just kind of went with it. The decision had nothing to do with the quality of the cheese. It was about the performance of the cheese. And while Lepro does provide slightly different cheese blends to different customers as a way of making you think that Papa John's cheese is different from the cheese you get at Domino's, really it's coming from the same place with the same general methods. It's sort of like how if you buy eyeglasses, whether they're designer frames or not, they're probably coming from the exact same factory. It's like the same thing. But wait a minute, you might say, what's wrong with this arrangement? I mean, it seems like efficiency. If people weren't okay with this arrangement, if they insisted on locally sourced cheese on their pizza, then Lepro's would collapse overnight. All their patents would be worthless. Local dairy farms would see a major surge in popularity. Instead, the opposite is happening. In just the past year, bankruptcies at local dairy farms went up by more than 55%. Meanwhile, Lepro is growing faster than ever. Now, the truth, as uncomfortable as it may be to admit, is that this argument has merit. The fact is, the vast majority of consumers have been conditioned to a point where we're okay with eating slop that's indistinguishable from every other slop factory. It's not just the pizza industry that works like this. Pretty much every restaurant has realized the same thing. That's what explains the enormous popularity of Sysco, the world's largest food distributor. You probably noticed like a giant Sysco truck in the parking lot of your favorite restaurant at one point or another. Along with US Foods, which Sysco recently attempted to merge with, Sysco is responsible for a very large amount of the food that you see on restaurant menus. So if you order mozzarella sticks, for example, it doesn't matter if you're at Carrabba's or Applebee's or Chili's or anywhere, you're almost certainly getting the same reheated product from the back of the same Sysco truck. And over the past decade, Sysco's dominance has only increased. They've been on a buying spree, snatching up all their competitors. Watch.
The scary thing about Sysco was it didn't become this giant through organic growth, but instead it became a giant through relentless acquisitions that went unchecked.
They've acquired over 150 companies to become Really one of the only national broadline distributors for restaurants.
Now, Sysco doesn't disclose how many restaurants it serves, but they do disclose that they serve around 730,000 customer locations, which would imply, if we're being very conservative with our estimate, that they provide food to probably around 300,000 restaurants at a minimum, since restaurants make up most of their sales. US Foods.
And here's the bigger picture. This isn't a scandal. It's just how modern food system works. When 2 or 3 companies handle distribution for most restaurants in the country, menu items start to feel identical no matter where you go. It's efficiency, not conspiracy. It absolutely explains why so many meals taste the same today.
Meanwhile, serves at about an estimated 150,000 restaurants. To put that number in context, there are roughly 750,000 restaurants total in the entire country. So therefore, assuming US Foods and Sysco mainly serve different restaurants, more than half of the restaurants in the country are getting prepackaged, prepared food from the same place, or one of the 2 same places. So if all the food tastes the same everywhere, it's because it is the same. It's literally the same food. But US Foods and Sysco, they aren't the only companies that are pushing frozen foods. It's easy to blame them, and they're certainly responsible for most of the phenomenon, but they're not the only ones. Consider what's happened at Cracker Barrel. They're not controlled by a private equity company, for what it's worth. They're a publicly traded corporation. But Cracker Barrel, as you may remember, just undertook probably the single most disastrous rebrand in the modern history of restaurants, which they quickly reversed. The female CEO, a woman with 3 names called Julie Fells Massino, somehow was not fired after the incident. At the same time, the rebrand wasn't actually the biggest problem facing Cracker Barrel. For many years beforehand, they'd seen declining sales and relevance. Why is that? Well, after the rebrand became national news, one Cracker Barrel employee explained. Watch.
If you think what's happening in the front of house of Cracker Barrel is bad, you should know that what's happening behind the scenes in the back is even worse. I worked at Cracker Barrel for 8 years as a cook, and it's slowly gone downhill with a rapid acceleration in the past year. Let's start with biscuits. You can see here, they're frozen now. What they used to do is I used to make these pans of biscuits every day for like an hour. That's how long they would last, because we went through them. And they would be hot and fresh straight out of the oven for the guests. And now they freeze them for days ahead of time. So what you could be getting is days old, and they just put them in a warmer for about 40 minutes, and that's what you're getting. And that's why they look like this now, instead of those nice big thick fluffy biscuits with butter smeared on top. No, you're getting frozen nothing. And now they cook 8 to 12 to 15 a day, and then bag them up like this for you and microwave it. Just a nice microplastic piece of meat. It's so gross.
So you can't blame Sysco or US Foods for this. He didn't say they're loading all the food from a truck and reheating it. He says they're cooking it in-house and then reheating it several days later. And this is not a private equity thing. They don't own Cracker Barrel. So who's actually responsible?
If you enjoyed these straightforward breakdowns, feel free to subscribe for more clear, neutral analysis. I appreciate you watching, and let's get back to it tomorrow.